Stage 4. And stage 4 is akin to when we talked about Judy Herman's triphasic model. She called hers reconnection, the last phase, the third phase, and we've called ours post-traumatic growth and resilience. Because 20th century concept, I think, of psychotherapy was the return to premorbid functioning was the goal of treatment, was to restore the person back to the level that they were before the trauma. That's what the purpose of trauma therapy was. But we've obviously stepped beyond that, and what we want to do is to help people to integrate and to actually grow from their experience, to become more resilient, to have to restart adult development and grow towards who and how they want to be, instead of just being symptom free. It's not, the goal of treatment is not being symptom free. It is them living an intentional life without symptoms. So for stage 4, there's 2 ways to enter stage 4. There is, if we get done with stage 2 and we do that mid-treatment assessment, and my client's not having any flashbacks or nightmares, they're not having criterion B symptoms, that their flashbacks and nightmares and arousal at cues has diminished to the level that it's just not happening very much, then we just hop right over stage 3 into stage 4 and begin this process of forward-facing work intentionally. Or if there are flashbacks and nightmares, then we engage one of the trauma resolution strategies of prolonged exposure, or EMDR, or the narrative exposure that we just finished a bit ago. Any of those to resolve the nightmares and flashbacks to the level that the person can continue forward. And when those have dissipated to the level that the person is no longer having significant distress around that their past is not intruding into the present to the level that they can't function anymore, then we move on to stage 4. And there's 2 parts to stage 4, that 2 kind of bodies of research and focus that we want to address. And the first one is Calhoun and Tedeschi's work. If you've not read any of their work, they've been working for the past, 10, 15, almost 15 years probably, on this concept known as post-traumatic growth. And what they started finding in their early research was that there was a significant amount of people that went through trauma, more people that went through trauma that ended up doing better after the trauma than there were that ended up with PTSD. And as more and more work's been done around post-traumatic growth, it's become a vector, a focus of working with critical incidents, of how do you activate and catalyze strength and resilience and growth after an event, rather than treating them as though they are treating a survivor of a recent trauma, somebody that's gone through a hurricane or somebody that's had a motor vehicle accident, with the assumption that they're going to be traumatized. And what they found is that there are some predictable engagements, some things that folks can do, that when they do them, they are more likely to have growth and resilience resulting, having better quality of life after a trauma than folks that don't do those. And in essence, what post-traumatic growth is positive change resulting from a life crisis or trauma. That's Calhoun and Tedeschi's definition of post-traumatic growth. And, again, Nietzsche was both wrong and right. That which doesn't kill us makes us stronger if it's integrated, makes us weaker if it's disintegrated. So trying to do something to help the integration of the trauma while also facilitating post-traumatic growth. So what they found is these are the 5 spheres of focus on interventions and simultaneously outcomes. So what does post-traumatic growth look like? Well, it looks like spiritual maturation, the opening of new opportunities. That's both perceptually and behaviorally, that seeing things, seeing possibilities where previously there was none, developing new relationships with others and oneself, developing greater strength, wherewithal, resilience, ability to confront things that a person is afraid of. And if you've read Sean Akers' work from Harvard on the science of happiness, you know that that as a person practices gratitude and a couple other pieces of service, and that what you can do is that you can actually rewire your brain. You can hack your brain in 21 days of practicing gratitude and service and kindness and doing these positive actions. That you actually rewire your brain to be more open to experience and to just have a brighter and sunnier disposition, to be happy. That by doing the simple act of daily intentional gratitude changes your neuronal sequencing and your brain chemistry, and that's kind of interesting, and that's the stuff of post-traumatic growth. So we help folks to clarify and become more focused on what is their spirit, what is their belief structure, and beginning to live in more attunement to that, to elicit, to use the trauma as a fulcrum of, you now have the opportunity to decide who and how you want to be for the rest of your life. So using that as a launch pad, because everything before was one thing, and now going forward it can be something else. What would you like for that to be? Helping folks to engage relationally. One of the things that happens to trauma a lot for folks is they withdraw. That for many people, trauma happens relationally. And even those that have suffered natural disaster, that are not human-caused events, still the threat of exposure or being seen or being vulnerable with another person is a much harder thing to do. And as we teach them to engage relationally, they find themselves having better quality of lives. And we teach strength, which is what folks want to be after a trauma is an oak, and we want to teach them to be more of a palm. So resilient strength instead of brittle strength. And that's what hypervigilance is, brittle strength that breaks easily, where resilience is palm strength that is able to bend and take the stress of the day and then regain one's shape after a stressor. So being able to teach folks that capacity of restoring and repairing, of being able to exert their energy, but also to be able to repair. And then again, back to activating this sense of gratitude and appreciation for all that one does have. And to make post-traumatic growth simple for a trauma survivor, here's all it is. It is the ability to confront the perceived threats of one's life in a relaxed muscle body. That as you send people out of your office doing that, that adult development is thwarted when a person is only confronting perceived threats with aggression, or worse, avoiding those perceived threats. And to catalyze growth, what we need to do is that we need to get folks more and more airtime in their parasympathetic system. So they've got intentional behavior, that they've got neocortical functioning, that they can decide who and how they want to be in those situations, instead of space collapsing, Groundhog Day, same behavior over and over and over every time in that context. So to facilitate the growth, we got to help them be in regulated autonomic nervous systems. And that's the essence of what we're trying to do with post-traumatic growth. Come back in the next capsule and show you how to do that in a systematic way using forward-facing trauma therapy.